So there is indeed something about Mira, and it is an intense love for sharing life itself. It thrills me to present the Women in Film 2017 BMW Dorothy Arzner Directors Award to Mira Nair like fire.
Thank you so much. They told me to speak softly and carry a big stick. They also told me to break a leg when I started in the theater with Monsoon Wedding Now at Berkeley Rep, and I took them seriously. I broke the fucking leg. So thank you so much. Thank you, Lupita. Thank you, Women in Film. Thank you for letting me not feel low when sometimes I am low by looking at all that work and remembering the struggle. And thank you, all of you, really, for this honor and privilege to be here tonight to accept the Dorothy Arzner Award. It is hard to feel, not to feel as if we have forgotten her, the legacy that Dorothy Arzner created, the path that she forged for us, the remarkable work she left behind. But in the yogic belief, and I am an aspiring yogi, if you take a person's name, you honor that name. And I will take Dorothy Arzner's name again and again with salam and gratitude. For as long as I can remember, my secret life, the life that is not in these halls, is nourished by trees. And in a life that brims with the chaos of questions and noise, these silent creatures, these trees, they bring me peace. They simply are listening in a world that is otherwise fueled by clamor. And I practice, after making movies and between making movies, I practice what I call guerrilla planting. I put trees in the soil anywhere I can. And I am lucky enough, really, to be living in Kampala in Uganda for half the year, where the equator literally runs through my garden. So everything grows boundlessly and peacefully and right outside my window. And next door to my home is our film school, which is called Maisha, which is a Swahili word which means life, in Uganda, where we train screenwriters and directors and cinematographers and sound mixers to promote a local film culture. And every student and every teacher has planted a tree to my design in their name. And someone recently called it a nature archive of African cinema. And it is beautiful to take a walk in our forest now. It is a forest, and you see Lupita's name, and you see Giancarlo Esposito's name, and you see Forrest Whitaker's name, and you see Abderrahman Sissako's name, and you see Raoul Peck's name, and it gives me a high. And I look for highs. But trees, you know, they become great witnesses. They withstand almost everything across the years, and they teach me, most importantly, that we all come from somewhere. It is because we have roots that we can fly, and to know Dorothy Arzner is to know where I have come from. Thank you, really, all of you brilliant women in film, for linking me with the great and thoughtful badass that was Miss Arzner. It has been a real pleasure to discover her work, her clear-eyed determination to cut a swath through a man's world, and to have the confidence to state what she wanted, and her bravery for her point of view. The words prolific pioneer feel insufficient in the face of the force of nature that was Miss Arzner. She cut 52 films. She directed 20 in the course of 24 years and was the first woman to be admitted to the DGA. And what is hard for us now was almost, I would say, I think, impossible during Dorothy's time. There is a necessary yet a terrible bravery and loneliness in being amongst the first of your kind. When I first began making films 30 years ago, Salam Bombay, Michael and Tom did not pick it up. We've grown old together, these two and I noticed my desperate absence in their roster. But that's all right. There's a future ahead, Michael, and there's a future ahead, Tom. No worries. But when I first made Salam Bombay, which was an Indian film in Hindi in New York City, we did not have a precedence. I shared a room, I remember an editing room, not any other kind of room, with Spike Lee, my friend, and we paid for 24 hours of editing room. 12 hours he cut She's Gotta Have It, and 12 hours I cut Salam Bombay. But I never thought a Hindi film, could be seen across the wider world, and it was. There was no model really to follow, and as I pushed forward with not knowing or no example or actually no guru, I did not know that I would find an audience to meet me on the other side of my work. The feeling of being neither here nor there, a novelty at home and a foreigner abroad, was hard to shake off. We have a song called Neither Here Nor There now in my musical Monsoon Wedding. Please, all of you go. It's only a $80 ticket, and it's at Berkeley Repertory, and you can hear the story, the anthem of so many of us who are neither here nor there, but seek to find that anchoring. When Mississippi Masala came out, now almost more than 25 years ago, when it opened in London and in New York and all over the globe, I remember wildly looking at the queues of the people lined around the block to watch it, and I was bewildered and actually thrilled and disarmed by not only the sheer number of people, but also the color of the people, the lines of people flashing their hybridity with emanating pride. And it was then that I discovered that there are people who are listening. There is actually nothing more powerful than making work in which we see ourselves, we see our color, our language, our poetry, to make work that brims with specificity and yet plumbs something that is relatable and universal in each one of us. The slogan and my mantra of Maisha, which I say again and again, is if we don't tell our own stories, no one else will. And to keep ourselves alive in the world, it is essential to stand in the unknown, to embrace the monsoon of uncertainty. In order to make something happen, anything happen, and then happen again, I try to cultivate stamina. I try to keep the heart of a poet alive in me, but goodness knows, despite the beautiful Max Mara, I have to maintain the skin of an elephant. And 30 years later, as I have just tackled my next project of adapting Monsoon Wedding from film to stage as a big musical that we hope will open on Broadway next year, I find the same obstacles meeting me. The stronghold of tradition that must be preserved, the strange citadel of the institution of Broadway, and I find myself still, after all these years of working, knocking at the door to be let in. We cannot afford to mistake the passage of time as progress. The steady march of years is not the same as change. In fact, as we have seen recently, the pendulum has swung back. From the year 2015 to 2016, the percentage of women directors has declined from 9% to 7% in the industry. We cannot be distracted by simply shining a bright light on the very few. Editorials and magazine covers do not translate the real tangible change. In the face of this, it is so necessary, it is vital to find a community. Find those who build bridges with you and take you further. Because when all is said and done, there is absolutely no substitute for the act of simply doing the work, of finding the inspiration, of making something happen, of actually creating. One of the harder things in life is to be anchored, and many things contribute to being anchored. One's family, both the one I was born into, but more importantly, my creative family, in order to express myself creatively, to stand firmly in the act of creation, I anchor myself by drawing from the spirits of others. And tonight, I'd like to thank and pay homage to several. My partner in crime and my producer of several, more than 20 films, Lydia Pilcher, who is here tonight, whose marriage of politics and art in her work endlessly fuels and inspires me. Actually, Bart Walker, my fantastic agent but dearest friend, who has seen me through many struggles to retain the inspiration and to retain the control that makes my work, I hope, what it is. And another Walker who recently sought me out in Berkeley, Alice Walker, who's a true light of honesty, of strength and beauty in this world, who has never ceased to enthrall in her stories, to cut to the heart of the matter and the often cruel truth in the world. And a wonderful woman I met over the years, and recently again, Eleanor Coppola, who after a lifetime of nourishing an amazing family into being, has directed her first ever film in her 70s. Her patience, Eleanor's patience and quiet indomitability challenge the very notion of when one can begin. And of course, my dear Lupita Nyong'o, who has her feet so squarely planted in our great African continent, and yet mindfully and beautifully and very sensually often represents us all across the world. We all come from somewhere. We must know whose shoulders we stand on, what work we build off of, and what roots we have that make us fly. We must never be afraid to be lonely, but also we should know that we are never alone. Thank you again, Dorothy Arzner, Women in Film. Shukriya, Namaste, and Namaskar. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.